Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. I've all 22'd every JJ McCarthy pass, and I got to tell you, I'm ready to overreact.
Hey, this is Arif Hasan from the Wide Left Substack. Really frustrating that every rookie quarterback did pretty well. It's kind of annoying.
Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. This is a Bo Richter account now.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. I don't care how anyone did in the preseason. I will continue to push my agendas.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
Brand new week here on the Minnesota Football Party. Welcome in. We are part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day and of the week. For your second listen, go check out Luke Braun on Locked On Vikings reacting to the preseason game as well. He's got JJ McCarthy takes there, and he'll have them here today as well. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. That's where the audio of this show lives, on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. Please subscribe on YouTube, by the way, Locked On Sports Minnesota, as we inch toward 8,000 subscribers. And thank you all who watched the postcast after Saturday's game. Unbelievable engagement, unbelievable numbers. Luke Inman, the postmaster general, is the host there after every single Vikings game. You met him, you met Luke Braun, you met Arif Hasan, and I'm Sam Ekstrom. JJ McCarthy overreactions from Saturday's game, plus the best of the rest. Who stood out against the Las Vegas Raiders? Could Stephon Gilmore be joining the secondary mix this week? And I've got some hot takes about the 53-man roster that I would like to dish and see what these guys think. But first, I remind you that today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL, linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And before the show is over, we will update our preseason fantasy teams. We've got a very tight battle for first between two of these guys. I'm not one of them. My team stinks. More on that before the show is over. But guys, I sat there on the increasingly crappy NFL Plus, trying to watch the All-22. It used to be so great. It's terrible. But I powered through, and somehow I finagled through their awful technology, and I watched all of the JJ McCarthy dropbacks. And upon rewatch, guys, I think I'm more excited than I was on Saturday. The pick stands out as like an obvious error. Duh, of course it was. But it also wasn't McCarthy standing in a wide open pocket and throwing it to a guy that was, there were no receivers around. It's an interception that you see pro quarterbacks make under pressure, trying to make a play on third down. There were so many good throws of his 17 attempts. There were so many dimes. There were clutch third down plays. He hung in under pressure, guys bearing down on him. Kene Nwangwu getting exploded every other play, and JJ McCarthy hanging in there. Slants, out routes, down the field, perfectly timed deep balls, dropping them into the arms of Trishton Jackson, Trent Sherfield. Inman, I loved it. I loved rewatching it. I think it was an A grade in his debut. What'd you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to try to go homer on the bit, but I don't think a B+ is enough. I was going to push for an A- too. So glad I'm not the only one. I'm with you. A lot of encouraging stuff. First thing I think I wanted to see, first NFL game, more than normal to have some nerves going on, maybe look a little rattled, but with him, and you don't want to oversimplify it. It is one game, a lot of moving parts, a lot of variables. We could get into the mechanics and all that, but for the most part, it just looked like he was the same guy we saw at college, at Michigan, like cool and calm, passed the eye test, showed up on the big money downs, way more good decisions than bad decisions, seemed to have a good grasp of the offense, the concepts, the play calls, all that stuff. So I think the number one thing, and I agree with you, I just want to echo, the number one thing I was most impressed with, so much of a quarterback's evaluation when it comes to playing in the NFL compared to college and making that jump. One, obviously the speed of things, are things moving too fast for them? But two, what do they look like under pressure, under duress? Can they stare down the barrel when, a big defensive lineman is crashing down on them, crash in the pocket? For the most part, again, he looked like the same guy we saw at Michigan for the most part. So a lot of nice throws, a lot of encouraging stuff. Very fun and exciting to think about what he's going to look like when he's throwing the ball to guys like Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson and Jordan Addison when that time comes. But just a lot of encouraging stuff for one start, Sam. Very good.
Arif, we didn't hear from you on the postcast, so let's get your JJ McCarthy overreaction.
B+. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as like the A-, the A's that you gave, because I think the pick matters, right? I think that that's like a pretty important part of the evaluation. I think that over time, he continued to improve on his timing, on his pocket presence. I mean, his pocket manipulation was generally quite good anyway. But, there are like some small things here and there that I thought that he could improve on, including early on kind of the timing and the pocket awareness. But I think that he's like way ahead of schedule. I think that that's really fantastic. I think that the idea was obviously that, because the Vikings are, kind of reconstructing the way that he's throwing the football, that it's going to take a while for him to get everything ready. And it still might, right? But the way that kind of I understood that to play out is not where he is. He's way ahead of that. I think that's really exciting. I think that the deep ball to Trishton Jackson obviously was really fantastic. And generally just speaking, I think that, his ability to get the ball out and into the hands of receivers, I mean, like that's the primary job, right? I think that he did a really fantastic job of that. So I'm excited about it. I think that I'm probably not as excited as the two of you.
Yeah, B+, but A-. Whoa, pump the brakes.
B+,
sure. A-, dude. Whoa, what are you? Nuts?
89, yes. 90, get out of here.
Hey man, I don't know if any of you got real mad at teachers if you had an 89 B+, and you knew that you could get that A- if you argued hard enough.
I never got an 89.
Yeah,
Good name. Easy work.
I didn't do homework, so that was like
I didn't do that.
That was like the argument I would always have. They'd be like, why did you give me an 89? It's like, Arif, you didn't turn in like 3 papers. And it's like, yeah, but you know how they would have been if I did.
Right. Right.
The percentage of high level throws of 17 attempts, I just thought was so encouraging. And I know the threshold for a big time throw on PFF is very high. He only had 1, but there are like 7.
Well, but also
I circled.
His depth of target was 10, right? So like he did push the ball down the field. He did invite pressure as he did that. I think that he kind of waited a little bit on some of these deeper throws when maybe that wasn't the most appropriate reaction to what was happening in front of him. But yeah, I think that saying he had 1 big time throw doesn't capture how explosive his playmaking was. I agree.
The attempts had a degree of difficulty to them. That
yes.
Like if you look at because the only other rookie I saw was Bo Nix, and Bo Nix did fine, but all of those throws were routine. They were game managery. They were just kind of like your sort of in rhythm concepts, and it was just like execution, but it wasn't elevating. And I think at times JJ McCarthy elevated like what his receivers were doing, especially like that throw to Nick Muse that felt like elevating. The corner's trying to undercut it. We got to put it high. We got to put it away from him. We got to make Nick Muse make a big, stretchy catch, and he could, so we did it. That is the part that excited me the most, but I can't get over not like the interception is really bad. That can never happen again. I think everybody understands that, but also the 2 rollouts that he laid out into outer space, you can't do that. You can't not be able to throw a rollout to the flat and expect to be a starting quarterback. And to mess that up that spectacularly bad in twice in a quarter is rough for me. No, I don't think that doesn't get solved, right?
He was buried. He was buried on both of those.
That's what happens on rollouts. That's how those work. You're going to have somebody in your face on those all the time. You got to layer it over somebody and get it to them. So I have a feeling we're going to rep that a lot this week. and then it'll be fine. But that's like, to me, the problem that most urgently needs to get solved. I think the problems that led to the interception aren't as much of a like deal. Like, that's something you can pretty easily just say, okay, don't do that again. And then the problem is solved. You can solve that one with a conversation. I think you gotta practice that rollout throw a little bit too.
Okay, that comment by Bad Dad Joke is peak homerism. I love it. It's incredible. Caleb Williams
I won't fact check that.
Had an outstanding game, a truly outstanding game. his best pass was a shovel pass is such a good sentence because it was such an incredible throw. Like, I mean, like the physical act of throwing it, not that impressive. The awareness and presence of mind he had to flick that ball to the running back, just unreal what he did. So I really appreciate that Bad Dad Joke commented what he did because it's such perfect. It's really good bad faithing in a way that I really like. It's so obvious and I enjoy it.
The full comment: Bo Nix made Bo Nix throws. JJ McCarthy made NFL caliber throws. Caleb Williams' best pass was a shovel pass. And you know what?
Absurd statement.
I apologize for nothing. He says, I did not watch the Bears
game. Did you at
game.
least see the throw that he's talking about?
I didn't see a second of the Bears, so I would have happily spread that as misinformation if someone had asked me.
The pocket is like collapsing around him. It's like a screen pass gone wrong. Like they just didn't hold for like the half second that they needed to. He's getting absolutely swarmed, and it seems like he can't see anything, and the ball just kind of pops out and it lands in DeAndre Swift's hands, and he guns it for like 27 yards or something like that. It's truly,
I think, like, by the way, that play was DeAndre Swift's fault. I think he ran way too deep on that.
That would make sense.
And like ruined the whole thing.
Yeah, so he's probably it looked like he was ahead of his blockers. That actually does make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Williams saving that was outstanding. Plus, he had like two really great throws to the sideline. I think people are overrating all the rookie quarterbacks. That's what we do. With Caleb Williams, I think that the mistake that people are making, again, truly an outstanding performance, is that this offense, the Bears offense, looks extremely boot dependent. Like it's very dependent on the rollouts, and they got him out in space a lot. And it's like, well, when they start game planning in the NFL, that's going to be an issue. It looked fantastic here because he threw some really fantastic passes in response to the situations he was given. But if they're protecting him that much, it's going to create some issues down the road. That said, I think Caleb Williams had the best out of any of the rookie quarterbacks.
Let's get into the best of the rest from preseason game number 1. Good stuff on JJ McCarthy and lots more performances to analyze next on the Minnesota Football Party. We are brought to you today by LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role that can enhance your company. That's why you check out LinkedIn Jobs. They've got the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. This is not your normal job board. It is not. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else because some who see the listing might not actively be searching, but they might still be open to the role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. That's why you use LinkedIn Jobs. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Small businesses wear a lot of hats. They've got a lot of duties. They don't always have the resources or time to go through more of a manual hiring process. LinkedIn helps with that. That's why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl, linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Full lineup this week at Locked On Sports Minnesota, the Ron Johnson Show tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be talking about his initials appearance on KFAN today. Then we've got the Minnesota Basketball Party talking gold medal game on Wednesday, and we're back on Thursday here on the Minnesota Football Party. Again, please subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, best of the rest from Saturday. I'm going to give my X Factor, my underrated performance to Walter Rouse. Rouse.
Yes.
6th round pick played a team high 52 snaps, half left tackle, half right tackle, allowed just one pressure. Walter Rouse,
That's
round
impressive.
of applause.
Yeah,
The
love that.
backup,
Switching sides too.
love
That's
that.
great.
the pass protection in preseason games so often breaks down the
Mhm.
further you get into it. It didn't feel that way. I mean, it felt like Ed Ingram struggled. Kene Nwangwu was awful, but there wasn't a lot of pressure being allowed by those rookies. That's a pretty good sign. That's
yeah,
my guy. Go ahead.
Nothing more frustrating trying to watch your developmental quarterback take some valuable reps in the preseason, and the offensive line can't even give him 2 to 3 seconds to the play down. So that was
I do want to contest the Kene Nwangwu because obviously on the interception he had a bad rep. Like there's no question about that. I do want to commend him for quickly identifying the correct assignment, getting to it in time. Obviously that's half the battle.
You could
but steamrolled
identify
like
the
2 other
correct
times,
assignment
too.
too, Arif,
Yeah.
but if you get
No,
literally driven
I
into
can't.
dust.
No, I
No,
can't.
I can't.
That's the important thing. So many running backs cannot do that part of the job. Identify. In fact, that was actually the biggest issue Alexander Mattison had the first couple of years he was with the Vikings. He actually was really good at pass protection when he got to his guy, and he never got to his guy. So I do want to say that actually he does deserve a little bit for that. Obviously, like you said, he got grounded to dust. But after that, he was actually pretty good in pass protection. Aside from that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Like, I get that is like a pretty big problem. But I think from a rep to rep basis, Nwangwu actually wasn't that bad in pass protection. It's just you notice what you notice. Ingram, I think another good example. I think Luke pointed out on Twitter that that might have been a miscommunication error that led to the problem that Ingram had, right? And if that's the
Still
case,
his fault, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems a little bit more solvable if that's the case.
Yeah,
right?
not just getting smoked, although it's also Christian Wilkins, so.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do want to say I thought the backup offensive linemen generally did surprisingly well. Like Rouse for sure, right? Spencer Rowland, Tyrese Robinson, all the tackles. Why can't they get a guard, man? All these tackles are killing it.
I guess you don't just pick a bunch of tackles and move them to guard. I guess let's just Mike Harris this forever.
I mean, sure, so long as you don't Oli Udo it, right?
Yeah.
Tyrese Robinson
pancake
was,
JJ Watt once, all right?
good.
That'll live on forever in my heart.
Now I'm thinking about TJ Clemens, and now I'm going down the rabbit hole right now. So it's not good.
I'm going to give it to the same guy that I did on the postcast, which is Jalen Redmond. Very unheralded performance because a lot of his best plays went to someone else on the stat sheet. The Bo Richter sack, the Levi Drake Rodriguez pass breakup.
Good. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Redmond was in the backfield a lot. There was a James Lynch pressure that he started but didn't finish. Really, I think, and because James Lynch had a rough day up front, I think Redmond somebody moved up the depth chart on the D-line because that third team D-line was insane. And the second team D-line got run down their throat all day long. Like something had to give there, I feel like. Or preseason games don't matter for the depth chart, which I don't think is true.
They weren't wonderful at the point of attack. I remember the goal, like the second team defensive line. I remember that goal line touchdown that they allowed. Everyone kind of caved in a little bit. I think the primary issue was Camus Grugier-Hill, but I think all of them had some issues there.
Yeah, he had ups and downs because he had a couple of pretty good plays in the backfield, but
But yeah, I think of the second team D-line, I'd say probably Jihad Ward might have been the best of that. I think Jihad Ward's better than Pat Jones. I think there's a pretty good chance of that. Jones is probably better at understanding what you need to do on a football field, which I grant you is important. I just talked about why that matters for running backs and pass protection. But he can't do anything about it, which is very frustrating. Like once he moves in a direction, that's the direction he's going. He can't change that fact. Jihad Ward can change directions, and that feels like really important to me. But anyway, that third team defensive line group, Levi Drake Rodriguez had a good game, right?
Yeah.
Bo Richter, obviously, we just talked about it. They had a good game, right? Jalen Redmond had a really fantastic game. So This is kind of interesting. What's going on there?
I think because of the 2022 draft debacle, I think just watching all these rookies flash in their first game was just super encouraging. You guys have kind of already touched on all of them. You know, Levi Drake Rodriguez got his first sack. He was flying around. And by the way, I think they may need him at times this year, just knowing how thin they are in the trenches. If someone gets hurt like a James Lynch or something like that, who knows? You may actually see some Levi
Or if
Drake
they, I don't know, cut a Jaquelin Roy, which it seems like
whoa, spicy.
I don't think that's spicy at all. But what we saw,
Spicy, but I don't know about wrong.
Right. You might not be
Like,
wrong.
oh yeah, for all of the third team guys that really popped off, yeah, maybe that's the guy that is. You know, I mean, for every winner, there's kind of has to be a loser. This preseason's a bit of a zero-sum game.
Like who is uncuttable of your outside linebackers and defensive line? Phillips, Turner, Van Ginkel, Grenard. Like who else is safe?
Yeah,
It feels like
four of
Jonah
the-
Williams has had a great camp and has worked with the ones, but uncuttable. I guess I'm not there yet. We haven't been at practice, so it's tough to say.
outside of the starters and the rookie, Dallas Turner, the closest to an uncuttable might be Jonathan Bullard. Like
Mhm.
who's good, by the way.
Who cooked?
But I just
who
he's
pushed the
good.
pocket like crazy.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know that there's really anyone uncuttable outside of those five, and I hope Jonathan Bullard makes the team. But I mean, he was great.
To
but
prove your point,
yeah.
though, Sam, uncuttable. You're right. Like once you get past these 2 or 3 starters at each position, boy, it's kind of wide open down there in that front seven.
Tell me what you think about this edge and D line group on the 53. I've got 11. Van Ginkel, Grenard, Turner, Patrick Jones, who I'm with Arif. I think he's cuttable, to be honest. And I would sneak on Richter, who, by the way, tied for a team high special team snaps. Like when guys are playing that many snaps on special teams, the team is carving out something for them. That's my opinion. I think Richter has a shot. Tillery, Phillips, Bullard, Jonah Williams, Roy, and LDR sneaks on. Is that too
There's
many?
so many guys.
Without looking at the depth, so
Yeah,
who's
well,
cut? It might be just easier to say who's cut, who's gone. Of the bigger
Yeah,
names.
who
You don't
didn't
have to
you
go through
keep?
all the UDFAs and whatnot. But just like
I was
who are the
pretty
bigger
generous. Lynch is gone, and
Okay.
that's Gabe Murphy,
Okay.
Jihad Ward,
Okay.
Andre Carter.
I think Jonah Williams might have got passed up.
Ooh,
I would not
that's interesting.
really be sad to miss him go out. I feel like I have to stand up for Pat Jones a little bit. I feel like he's done his job well. As the fourth guy, as the rotational guy, who's good for destroying a series once a month, like making like 3 plays in a row, like once a month. You know, like I feel like that's fine. I don't really like he sets the edge well with physicality. That is not a glamorous job, and it's not a job that's going to lead to a lot of tackles, but it's one you have to do. Somebody else gets the tackle there. That's how D-line works. It's a team game. I don't really understand the critique that he doesn't like two gap. That's not really what edge rushers
No, it's not
do.
two gapping. No, it's not two gapping. It's changing direction. Like he can't turn a corner. Like if his decision is to be an outside rusher and he bursts up the field, his burst is actually pretty good. He might get past the offensive tackle. He can't do anything about that fact. When he goes inside, he doesn't have the ability to.
Well, like he's going to get juked in the backfield. Like, is that the deal?
Well, I mean, like he can't get around the offensive lineman. So for setting the edge, that's fine, right? For making a play once he gets a step, once he gets hip to hip, he can't do anything about it. So he can't, like I said, he can't turn the corner on the outside. On the inside, when he gets some penetration, he can't turn up field off of it. And so he just keeps going in a straight line in front of the quarterback instead of at the quarterback. Like it's not a complete edge rusher skill set. Like when you see Dallas Turner get a half step, he immediately tries to get underneath the arms of the offensive tackle, turn the corner, go under the table, I think is another term that people use, and get to the quarterback, right? He can change directions. Pat Jones can't do that. He can set the edge, I agree, and that's a really important skill set.
Yeah,
And
and
he
what
also
always
reads
happens-
plays a lot better than somebody like a Jihad Ward. So I agree that there's advantages that he'd have that you'd want over somebody like a Jihad Ward. But like Ward gets a half step, there's a pretty decent chance he can turn in and get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think Jihad Ward had a good game, and I don't want to take away from him just by talking about Pat Jones, but I think what always happens in those situations is the guy that, has two flashy pressures in the preseason we get really excited about, but if he can't set the edge, he's not going to get the job over Pat Jones. Like that gets you a job in the NFL. It doesn't get you a starting job, and I don't think he deserves a starting job. But as a depth player, what you described is good enough for me. I think cuttable.
I didn't say Pat Jones was like bad.
We're talking about cutting him.
Yeah, for a guy I think might be better, right? Like it's not because
and I don't think somebody's gonna. I mean,
bad.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be 5 outside linebackers the way this group was constructed, and I think we all just kind of assumed it would be Gabe Murphy because he's the excited undrafted rookie. He's hurt, and with a whole bunch of guys showing out while you're on the bench, that sucks for you. So maybe that guy is Jihad Ward, maybe that guy is Bo Richter or whatever, but I think that's where the room like rounds out. I don't think you have 2 guys taking that job because I don't think you have 2 guys with a complete enough skill set.
That's the other area I do want to kind of contest, Sam. Bo Richter, that's kind of a lot after one preseason game to get this guy at the bottom of the UDFA chart. Again, he had a great game, so I don't want to like...
Yeah. That's like practice squad game day activations kind of guy, maybe like on and off the roster. But the special teams
point you make is a good one.
I think it's going to require more than what he showed in one preseason game to force his way on. But I just like the profile of the player. Like I think very much hidden gem in college, only had one really legit year of playing at Air Force, and just his build, his explosiveness, I think, and the reports I've heard on him from camp, I think he can play. So that would be kind of my stash guy. Like they stashed Andre Carter last year. They stashed Tayshawn Bauer for a year.
Yeah, let's do the Andre Carter thing again. Have the worst player in the league on the 53 all year and then cut him next year.
And pay him the most we've ever paid any UDFA in literal history.
My point is they're always doing this. They're always looking for an upside edge.
When you're talking about these undrafted guys that they stash onto the roster, people like Tayshawn Bauer, people like Andre Carter, they were among the highest paid, if not the highest paid.
Highly sought after.
So there's a pretty reasonable expectation that they would not survive waivers. Pretty confident that Bo Richter would survive waivers.
Fair.
So I think they
entirely fair.
I believe the Vikings were like the only. I think like right after the draft, Bo Richter got the call from the Vikings and just took it, and there was like no bidding war at
all. Braun, are you worried at all about Najee just not playing, being hurt, getting
I have no idea.
overlooked?
Oh, you mean like his roster outs because he's... I mean, that'll happen, right? If somebody really shows out as a punt gunner and you're hurt, like that's life. I don't think anybody did that. Thayer Thomas in particular had a very bad day as a punt gunner, so nobody's taken that, but there sure is a door open for somebody.
And I will say, I do have Najee on my 53 if he's healthy, but I think that it's still a decision. I think that you're still debating that up to the 11th hour. Yeah, pup could be an option. When we return, I've got 3 guys who I am cutting from my 53 based on what happened on Saturday. More overreactions when we continue on the Minnesota Football Party. Today's show brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Overreaction Monday continues here on the Minnesota Football Party, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota. All right, just simply based on Saturday, I'm making 3 cuts, 3 adjustments to the 53-man roster.
Okay.
Tell me which of these is the most ridiculous, which ones make sense. Number 1, dropping Brandon Powell. Trishton, Naylor, Sherfield, you're good. Powell
For Sherfield?
Can you find
Sherfield who bricked the drop over the middle of the field?
I got to hear these
quarter?
other 2 before I decide, but not loving that one. But we'll see.
Okay, I know that this is based off of the one game, but Brandon Powell was so important last year.
He was
so
huge.
important last year.
He played like 10 snaps too. Like I think if he played all game, he
so-
eventually would have got in.
So
And
just
does he
just
have
right
any
here for a
role on
second.
special teams as well too? We talk
Yes.
about special teams with Bo Richter and
Well, Brandon
everybody
Powell,
else.
but-
yeah,
But
100%.
if Powell is passed by 2 pretty good-looking receivers in Naylor and Jackson, are you good with Powell not having any impact at receiver, just being a special teams guy? If he's not a receiver, can you replace
because
that?
Yeah, welcome to wide
once you-
receiver 5s.
Yeah, because like once a guy gets injured, you'd rather that the guy who replaces him is good instead of bad. I feel like that's
Okay, I love.
Yeah.
I
Like, look,
love the
quarterback
vitriol.
5, wide receiver 5, linebacker 4. These guys, none of these guys get in from scrimmage.
right.
Once
they have
this
to.
is great.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that you guys hate it. Let me give you more that you'll hate.
Hi,
I'm-
such a good podcast. Says
Great.
I hate you.
I'm cutting Dan Feeney. Michael Juergens can play center. He just showed it.
Yeah, that's fine. I think
I'm
you
good-
pick
I'm
one or
good
the
with
other. I
that.
think that's
Yeah, whatever.
that's a fight for their lives.
I'm good
Go
with
for it.
that. I like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Dan
Although I
Feeney
do
was
think
not great.
I might say that Feeney outplayed Juergens. Maybe you cut Juergens instead, but I think it's a keep one of
Juergens
those.
was super not great. Dan Feeney was not great, but Juergens, importantly, younger.
Yeah.
And the fact that they kind of, I assume, wanted to see him play center, like it means they're thinking about it. They're
Yeah, he
thinking
played
about
52
making.
snaps,
Yeah.
same as Walter
that's-
Rouse,
yeah.
a team high. So they're definitely giving him a lot of valuable reps for sure. They want some tape for sure. Feeney,
Like, when
we kind of know what we got.
Like when you look at that O-line room, there is one spot for a guard/center depth piece. And Dan Feeney and Michael Juergens are both guard/center depth piece. There's one slot for both of those guys that they're fighting over. I think if you wanted, like for the 53 that I did, I could have kept them both and had 10 linemen. I chose to have 9 linemen and keep other players elsewhere. So like there's a world where I guess you could keep both, but I think you're definitely hanging on one or the other, and they're fairly redundant with each other.
There could be a world too where not only are they trying to see Juergens at center, but they want Feeney to get used to guard because maybe there's like a preseason Dalton Reisner trade. If he's not going to start, and they view Feeney as an
Ooh.
acceptable swing interior.
Who is trading for Dalton Reisner that couldn't have just signed him?
A team that loses a guard to torn ACL.
I mean, that's a lot to rely on, I think.
This is a theoretical exercise, Arif.
Was he
Yeah.
hurt? What was the deal there?
That's why I'm asking about hypotheticals.
Was Reisner hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned after the game something along those lines that like
Okay.
he had like a back thing or something.
I believe he missed like the practice leading up to this game, I think,
Yeah.
and it was not considered to be a major injury.
Yeah.
Got it.
My
Tyrese Robinson,
third-
now is your moment.
My third move, I'm dropping Jay Ward. I thought Jay Ward the
Whoa.
transition to corner didn't look
Luke
great,
responded a lot
They-
more strongly than I expected.
and they have apparently a backup safety that lights people up in Bobby McCain. So if Ward is superfluous at safety and not a good corner, cutting ties.
McCain might have had a worse day than Ward.
Yeah. McCain,
Yeah,
McCain
McCain
he had the hit of the day. Don't
He
get
had
me
the hit.
wrong,
He
and
had
that
the
was
hit.
Right,
We-
fun.
McCain had a great highlight. I loved it. Fantastic. I
Isn't
agree, might have
good.
had a worse overall day.
Yeah.
than
Oh,
Jay
important. Is Lewis Seen on your 53? Or are we already past him?
Scene
And
is
we're
not
cutting
on.
another safety.
He is
Okay.
not.
We're cutting another
was
safety.
he was interesting.
He was interesting.
I had a better day than McCain.
Right, the run support from the slot. I thought he was
Yeah.
generally pretty good on special teams, which is like
Did his job.
Yeah,
in
like,
coverage.
you know,
Come on
like,
down, 7th round unconditional draft pick. Come on down, baby.
So I mean, I am fine kind of abstractly not having Jay Ward on the roster. I don't know if I would do that necessarily for McCain, who I have a lot of affinity for because he's on my preseason fantasy team. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, cut Jay Ward. I just don't know if McCain's the reason.
I will say the corner experiment. Yeah, we can just be done with that. But Jay Ward might still be a enough of a special teamer and enough of a depth piece.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Was drafted by Flores was drafted with Flores in the room. So probably more of a Flores guy. They're going to be more resistant to cutting a second year draft pick. I get that.
Well, and Durante Jones coached him at LSU as well. You got that LSU connection going on too. But yeah, I'm with you. Now's the time to experiment. He had that versatility coming out of LSU. Try him, see how he looks in camp. Throw him in there in a preseason game at corner. But I'm with Luke. That experiment's over. Let's put him back to safety where at least he showed a little bit more promise and ceiling, I feel like. I don't want to cut ties quite yet, but yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I watched him all training camp, all offseason last year. I thought he was a long ways away last year, and it was clearly they kept him. They didn't want to cut ties with a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they would have needed to see pretty significant strides to be confident in his upside. I don't know if they've seen that yet. Maybe they have. But if they're doing a position switch and bringing in backup safeties, I don't know if they're confident in what he can do. So the writing on the wall is that Jay Ward might not have an avenue.
I get the argument. It's tough to be confident about Jay Ward has like a specific position that we feel good about, and just the way he's trending. You're right, but just this whole secondary group, just in general, specifically the corners, sure, but the whole secondary group just seems like an absolute hodgepodge of just moving pieces that I think we're in for a surprise or two once it gets closer to cut down day, and we'll see. We still got 2 preseason games to go off of as well, but yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces back here in this secondary.
Yeah,
Stephon Gilmore's in the building.
Stefan, let's get into that. So first, Macho Meach. Vikings traded Andrew Booth a couple days before the
Can't
game.
enable him.
Remember when we used
that spot for
that
Macho?
sound for? No, we don't. Remember when we used that sound for when news broke while we were recording? Like, I feel like
God, that was a
lost our
long
way.
time ago, man.
We've lost our way.
In a few ways, but yeah, that's one of them.
That's one of them.
Yeah. Macho, hey, I got your back. Not all the time. You have some pretty crazy ideas, but usually I have your back. Andrew Booth traded for Nashawn Wright, who obviously was not playing, right? He wasn't playing on Saturday. Moreau was playing. Wright was not playing.
Correct.
Is this, I mean, number one, another big hit for the 2022 draft class, which I think just continues to take hits, except for Jalen Naylor, who looks really good.
And Ed Ingram.
And Ed Ingram, I say through gritted teeth, who kind of
Ty Chandler still in the mix.
Ty Chandler still in the mix. Nick Muse made a good catch.
Muse is a guy. Yes.
Muse.
But a flyer for, you're getting a former 3rd round pick, 100th pick overall, who's in the last year of his contract and can play some special teams. I mean, the way I read it is, this is Najee Thompson insurance. If Najee Thompson can't go and has to be on the pup, you have a special teams guy who can be CB6. Maybe that's the Nashawn Wright upside. Anyone disagree with that?
Someone in my YouTube comments actually pointed something out useful, which almost never happens. But similar traits to Kyrie Jackson, maybe more of a replacement there. But with
got that
less
frame.
upside
Big
and
boy,
in 1 year
6'4".
of team control, and also probably won't make it.
He's related to somebody on the team, right? I saw that.
Cousins
His
with
brother
Blackman.
got drafted, right?
Yeah.
Cousins with Blackman.
His brother was Rajon Wright, a couple of Oklahoma State.
That's what I remember. Okay.
Yeah.
He's cousins with Mekhi Blackman?
Oregon State guys.
Yeah, that's it.
One
Yeah.
of the orange teams.
Practice squads are so easy to shuffle guys on now, and the elevations and everything. Like, it really is kind of like a 69-man roster between the 53 and the practice squad. Thank you, Arif. So I think he's a 69-man roster guy. Like, I think that he's
Nice.
part of the mix, maybe an elevation on Sundays. You guys are totally immature. But Stephon Gilmore in the
We
building
haven't lost our ways totally.
would be not at all.
Still on brand.
A buttoned up I hope a lot of people are listening to the Minnesota Football Party for the first time. You know, new season, they're coming in, they're looking up new pod. Oh, what's this Minnesota football? And then they find this.
How utterly disappointing.
Beacon of analysis and education. If Gilmore signs, and I know he's turning 34 in like a month, I think it's the most credible fix they've tried yet at cornerback. I still think even though he's played for 4 teams in 4 years, this would be 5-5. I think he's got more in the tank, certainly than Moreau, certainly than McCain. And if he can get along with Justin Jefferson after they beefed in the 2022 Colts game, I think it's all right. I'd be game for it.
My impression is that Justin Jefferson beefs aren't real, so it should be fine.
Yeah.
I sure.
Yeah, they'll stay on the field, I think.
Yeah.
Game respect game. They're jersey swapping after that. They're fine.
Right.
Yeah, they're good.
Sam, I can't disagree with what you said. I mean, yeah, I think Gilmore is here to be more than just like a Bobby McCain type, like just showing up. So if he's here, he's starting. And he's probably better than what the Vikings have because that group is pretty terrifying as it stands. I just can't get overly excited about it. Like, this is not 2019 Stephon Gilmore we're talking about.
No, but he did have a higher PFF grade than
older.
any corner on the team last year, I believe. So, I mean, the's still gas in the tank, but I get it, Arif. Like,
Speaking of, how bad was Byron Murphy in this game? Like, he had like 10 snaps.
Yeah, whoa.
Bad.
Well,
smoked.
Yeah.
I think he had
Devontae Adams wasn't even in the game.
Yeah, he wasn't even in the game.
Like
I don't know. When you face a quarterback like Gardner Minshew, I mean, can you just throw your hands up? Right?
Well, I think that's
that's
actually a good point, though, because I think he played 14 snaps. 13 were out wide. And I know Brian Flores mentioned at some point during this offseason wanted to get Murphy on the inside. Well, he can't until he gets a couple more cornerbacks out there that can play on the boundaries. So maybe this Gilmore signing is kind of two stones. What is it? Two birds?
Two birds, one stone.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that. But you signed
3 chickens,
one fell swoop.
Yeah,
sure, all of it. Yeah, you bring in Gilmore, he can play on the boundary, but you can finally move Murphy back inside. Right now, game 1, only one game, but 13 snaps on the outside. I think only 1 in the slot.
Hey, so we have a comment from Stuart Anderson. Frankly, I think those on the show were underreacting. I have nothing against Darnold, but he wasn't exactly spectacular. Wrong, he ruled.
Yeah, he cooked.
That was
buddy.
awesome.
Great.
That was fantastic.
2 big, 3rd and long daggers.
Yeah, there is something to be said for playing
over the linebacker to Jalen Naylor was
beautiful.
Yeah, that was insane.
Wow, that was incredible.
Like, is this the real Sam Darnold that's just been hiding in that shell this whole time, seeing ghosts in New York, everything else, but 3rd overall pick? Has this been in there the whole time?
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, you just had to extract him from the Jets, right?
It's been so long. I don't remember like the USC tape or anything like that. Like, yeah, I remember the vague scouting reports and things like that. But 3rd overall pick, obviously, he was highly touted.
He basically was like, he was like all potential. He was like this really highly touted recruit. He kind of had a reputation, not unlike JJ McCarthy's, where like, this is like the guy coming out of California.
Yeah.
And
super young at the time. 20.
Yeah.
I didn't love him.
He got hurt and played 1 year. So everybody was like, wait, is this guy real once you got to the NFL?
Right.
Yeah, I didn't super love him as a prospect. I remember talking to a couple of quarterback guys about him. I'm like, hey, I get why like you can be excited about this guy. I just don't see him as like a top 5 pick. And they would talk about him. They talk about all these things. And I was like, yeah, but he has like a ton of turnovers and turnover worthy plays. And it's like, yeah, he's got to fix that. But once you fix the turnovers, and I was like, all right, I'm out. Come on.
So this is Caleb Williams. Is that what we're doing?
No, Caleb Williams is phenomenal. Stop that.
He's good. He's actually good.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, no, this is Darnold once you get past like the annoying, well, he just has to stop throwing turnovers. And it's like, oh, he might have done that actually.
Yeah. Crazy. Every once in a while you get those prospects that like NFL teams have been watching since they were 15 years old and they're like almost just kind of anointed from before they've even proven anything.
Right.
And for Sam Darnold, he only played 1 year and had that status, so he still had all that like hype around him, and was still like kind of an unknown, which is a pretty good recipe to be drafted highly and then not live up to it.
Draft class is like Josh Rosen, right? That was the exact same draft class.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. Yep.
Because I remember like there was this weird conversation about how you'd rather have Darnold in New York because like he's a blue collar guy, and instead of Rosen, who is like this uppity, California guy. And it's like Darnold is also from Orange County, right? Like where is this coming from? Like that Darnold is a man of the people, salt of the earth. Rosen, rich dad, can't trust that. Which that felt a little, but
I've got guess.
yeah,
Well,
right. No, I think we both have the same guess, but that felt like a little like, okay, I get it. Two different kinds of redheads, I get it. I see what's going on. But yeah. But yeah, it feels like maybe he wasn't, fully equipped for the bright lights in New York or whatever. Fine. Now he's
not even the
coming to
bright
his
lights.
own.
He just had Adam Gase. That's all you have to say. Adam Gase. 0 weapons too. If you go back and look at that roster and depth chart too, just no help whatsoever.
And
Never
mono.
really had
That's
a
not-
chance.
Yeah.
Have
It
you
was
had
just the Jets'
mono
fault.
before? That's bad.
And seeing ghosts, like
Right.
Yep.
that's a concern.
Yeah, well, I don't think
that has
I
gotta
don't
be
think that was on
one
the
of
scouting
worst things
report.
a quarterback.
I don't
one of the
think
worst things a
teams
quarterback has had
knew
caught
he was
on the mic.
supernatural. Yeah, I don't think teams knew that. Yeah, so
I promised this early, and I will pay it off. Preseason fantasy results from game number 1. Our group chat was blowing up with Arif kind of taking the early lead.
I was taking
very
laps in the group chat.
quietly.
we crowned you at halftime. I mean, we pretty much
Yeah.
just crowned you champ. It was over.
Luke Inman
And
charges back with a 100-yard Trishton Jackson performance and a quiet defensive performance from Brian Asamoah to take a 1-point lead going into game number 2. Luke Braun is hanging on, but quite a ways back. He's about 27 points behind. And my team is
definitely
completely
exists. Your team
impotent.
certainly exists. Yeah.
I had 3 guys that didn't score. None of my guys scored more than 5, and my leading scorer was the kicker. That's how it went for me. So Arif and Inman, congrats on finishing gold and silver medal. You guys will likely battle it out, but really, I think Inman's got the best depth based on game number 1.
Yeah, he had
Yeah.
everybody score.
I don't know if you're going to keep seeing somebody like Jalen Naylor on the field.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well,
my,
Ty
that,
Chandler, I might not see Ty Chandler anymore much. We'll
yeah,
see.
so
I-
my
yes.
concern is that 2 of my 3 stars are now too valuable, right?
They're
Like I think JJ McCarthy is going to continue playing because like kind of want him to keep playing, but I could see Jalen Naylor and maybe Kene like see minute restrictions as it
Yeah.
were. Like
No,
right,
that's
that's
fair. I will say I think JJ's not only going to continue playing, I think
Yeah,
he's going
I
to get a
think-
lot. 2 quarters probably every game. And I will say this too, Braun's team, yeah, maybe, way behind right now. We haven't seen Nick Mullins yet. If Nick Mullins comes in for like a
Will we
quarter,
see Nick
Scale.
Mullins?
a couple
We
times.
scale.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah,
We scared.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Preseason game number
Dude,
3.
after we get the Baron, we're good.
QB allotment in the 3rd preseason game might decide it. With
Yeah.
if Jaron Hall gets 2 quarters, that could benefit Luke Inman.
Well, my thing is too, it's like, okay, I might have to dump Ty Chandler, but there's no other running back to pick up yet. I need that random off the street free agent signing, running back, but there's nobody out there.
Considering how they played, that might be on the docket.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That could happen.
We're going to push waiver claims to Thursday's show where we can add one person to our roster. I'm not prepared for it. I don't have the list up.
Wait for
So
some
let's-
transactions too. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
that.
we're all rushing to add Stephon Gilmore, who's definitely going to play in the preseason, to our squad.
Or whoever plays at running back.
You're
I
right.
don't know,
Yeah.
Damian Williams, he's out there.
Sam is going to have to replace Myles Gaskin with the guy who replaces Myles Gaskin.
My draft was 2022 Vikings like. Let's end the show with a segment we haven't done in a while. It's the biggest faux pas of the week.
It's time to tell you who spilled their proverbial drink on the sofa. Get ready for this week's party foul.
The biggest blunder of the week, whether it's personal, something you saw on TV, something that happened with the Vikings. It's party fouls making its triumphant return. Arif, you usually talk for 10 minutes when we ask you a party foul. How about like 1 minute this time? Is that okay?
We'll see what I can do. Court of Arbitration in Sport ruled against Jordan Childs for a review violation that the Romanians had put in because their gymnast got third until the review, in which case she placed fourth, giving Jordan Childs the bronze. The review violation was that the American gymnasts put in their review request for Jordan Childs' difficulty score, which the judges got wrong. Everyone agrees that the judges got the difficulty score wrong for Jordan Childs because it was 1 minute and 4 seconds after the start of the timer instead of 1 minute, which is the rule. The rule that only exists for the final gymnast, because every other gymnast gets 3 to 4 minutes to lodge their complaints for a review. So I think the Court of Arbitration in Sport did Jordan Childs dirty by ruling in favor of the Romanian objection. But even worse than that, they didn't even agree with the Romanians, who said we should share a bronze. Our competitor and Jordan Childs should share a bronze, is what they said. And the CAS disagreed and requested that Jordan Childs return her bronze medal so it could be awarded to the Romanian, something literally nobody wants. Also, again, the judges were wrong. No one disagrees with that. And there was no indication of what kind of evidence the Romanians had submitted for why that was outside of the needlessly short review time. So that's the party foul. Anyone who hasn't been following, probably very confused by that. But I'm mad.
The U.S. is countering and saying it was only 47 seconds.
And they've submitted video evidence to corroborate from two angles, I guess. Video evidence to corroborate that they'd actually turned in their objection to the scoring of Jordan Childs' difficulty within 47 seconds of the time instead of 1 minute, 4 seconds. I think it's insane because there's no timer on anywhere in the building. I think it's insane to enforce that strict of a timeline if there's no indication of what the time is.
Right. Yeah, that'd be like having the pitch clock in baseball with no visible clock. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Totally. Yeah.
So short. That's crazy.
Yeah.
France, you got to get up a 3. You can't have your foot on the line. The ending of the women's gold medal game was mind blowing. Got to get your foot behind the line there. That was almost the greatest gold medal finish that you could possibly.
I don't know if I call that a party foul. I mean, it's
a great shot. It's a great shot. You just caught spatial awareness.
That actually was going to be my second party foul. Not that, but that these players weren't allowed to play in the WNBA because of the prioritization rule, which is even more obscure and technical than the one I brought up. But it sucks because it means that 4 of the best players in the world can't play in the WNBA. They can.
That is unfortunate. Luke Inman, I know you got to fly. What's your party foul?
Hey, Will Reichard, he's going to have a long, lengthy, prosperous career in Minnesota. That's obviously a given. Do we have to watch him wear that jersey number 46? That's tough, man. I can't. That's tough for me.
Other ones will open up.
Maybe it'll grow on me.
Right, but
maybe it'll grow on me. But I already look away from my TV anytime a Viking.
It won't grow on you.
Look, they'll cut Jaron Hall, who gets 16. We won't have to think about it again.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Just make the switch. There's still time. Make the switch.
Do it now. Yeah.
Act like you've been there before. Come on.
Braun.
I don't want to do this. It brings me pain to do this, but I have to give it to Pretty Ricky. His coverage, the Twitter account, probably of an agency, leaking a lot of interesting information, being right a lot, very confidently pushing a Brandon Ayuk to the Steelers trade. From what it sounds like, this did get close and has now, circumstances have changed around him, but that's why reporters wait. That's a tough lesson learned. Come on, Ricky. You gotta know why you're always the first. Why Tom Pelissero waited. There's a reason. It's not that he didn't know it before you did.
That's a buzzer for you, Pretty Ricky.
Yeah, it was a buzzer for Luke, and I was like, I don't like Luke, but that seems unfair. I went for way longer.
No, I'm bolstering his point.
I was done anyways.
Yeah.
Love having all the people in the chat. Thank you for flooding back to the Minnesota football party now that the preseason's underway. We appreciate it. Make sure you check out the postcasts after each game. We're back on Thursday live on Locked On Sports Minnesota. For Luke Inman, Luke Braun, Arif Hasan, I'm Sam Ekstrom. We appreciate you watching and listening, and we will talk to you next time.